I think consistency has been explained wrong, right? Most people make it sound like you just need to force yourself harder, right? Like wake up earlier, try harder, stop being lazy, push through. But I don't think that's why people are inconsistent, right? Because most of the time, you already know what to do, right? You know you should sleep earlier. You know you should stop scrolling as much. You know you should work on your goals. You know you should take your life more serious, right? You know you should stop waiting for the perfect mood. And that's what makes it so frustrating, right? Because it's not like you're clueless. It's not like you don't care at all, right? It's it's not like you wake up and say, you know what, I really want to waste my life today, right? No, because most people who struggle with consistency actually care a lot, right? That's why it bothers them so much. That's why it hurts when they keep starting over. That's why every time they fall off again, it feels personal, right? You start thinking like maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe I don't want it bad enough. Maybe other people have something that I don't, right? But I don't think that's true. I think the real problem is this, right? You're trying to build a new life while your brain still sees the old life as normal, right? That's the part that nobody really talks about because consistency is not just about doing the thing, it's about becoming the kind of person where the thing feels normal, right? And once you understand that, consistency starts to feel a lot less like a fight, right? And it then becomes a lot more like a system, not a perfect system, not some fake morning routine where your life looks like a movie, but a real system, for real life, right? For when you're tired after work, for when you're stressed about money, like for when you feel behind, for when you compare yourself to people your age and feel like everyone else got a head start, right? That's the kind of consistency I want to talk about. Not the fake version, but the real version, right? The version that actually changes your life quietly until one day your friends look at you and go, "Wait, what happened to you?" right? So here's the thing, your brain does not always choose what is best for you. It just chooses what feels normal. And that's a big difference because what feels normal might be scrolling for 2 hours after work. What feels normal might be saying you'll start tomorrow. What feels normal might be getting excited about a new plan and then slowly disappearing from it, right? What feels normal might be watching videos about changing your life, but not actually changing anything, right? And I'm not saying that to judge you. I'm saying that because I've been there, right? You can be smart and still feel stuck, right? You can have potential and still not know how to use it. You can want more from life and still keep going back to the same patterns because your brain likes familiar, even if familiar is not good. It's like driving home from work, right? You ever drive home and then you suddenly realize you barely remember the drive? Like we've all been there, right? Like you were thinking about something else, you were on autopilot, but somehow you still got home. That's how a lot of people live. Not because they're bad people, not because they're lazy, but because their life is running on their old routes, right? Like the same thoughts, maybe same habits, same environment, same reactions, even same phone, same room, same people, same stress, same identity, right? I'm giving all this examples so you could see it clearly. So when you try to become consistent, you're not just fighting the task, you're actually fighting that old route, right? You're trying to tell your brain, like, hey, we're going somewhere new now, right? And your brain is like, no, we don't go there, right? We go here. So this is what we know. That's why change feels weird, right? That's why doing the right thing can feel uncomfortable, not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar, right? And this is where a lot of people quit, right? They think that discomfort means, this isn't me. But sometimes the discomfort just means this is new. That's it. Like, it's new, right? If you spend years being the person who starts and stops, then of course following through feels strange at first, right? Like, if you've spent years breaking promises to yourself, then of course trusting yourself feels strange at first. If you've spent years living in survival mode, then of course building a better life feels strange at first. So the goal is not to magically become consistent overnight, right? The goal is to slowly make the new path feel normal. That's how you trick your brain. You don't yell at it, right? You don't shame it. You don't try to become a completely different person in one day. You just keep giving it proof, small proof, over and over again until this new route starts feeling familiar. I think one reason people will fail, right, with consistency is because they make change too dramatic, right? They don't just say, I'm going to work out for 20 minutes today. They say, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life in the next 30 days, right? They don't say, I'm going to save $30 this week. They say, I'm going to become completely debt free and fix my whole life as fast as possible, right? They don't just say, I'm going to work on my goal for 15 minutes after work. They say, this is the week I completely turn my life around, right? They don't just say, I'm going to post one video. They say, this is the start of me becoming successful, right? And I get it. I mean, because when you feel behind, you don't want small change. You want, a full reset, right? You want to wake up and feel like a different person, right? You want the montage. You want the clean room. You want the perfect schedule, the early morning, the gym, the notebook, the, I don't know, money coming in, the confidence, the success, right? You want to feel like your life finally started. But the problem is when you make the change too dramatic, your brain starts treating it like a huge event, right? And huge events take huge energy. That's why you can do it a few days, but then it fades away, right? Because now the task is too heavy. It's not just go for a walk, it's prove your whole life is changing. It's not just save $30, it's prove you're not falling behind financially. It's not just work for 20 minutes, it's prove you're wasting your potential. It's not just, wake up earlier, it's prove you're finally becoming successful, right? And that's just too much pressure. Like, no wonder you avoid it, right? It's like trying to carry every grocery bag from the car in one trip, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you could do it, but now it hurts your hand, right? Like, now your wrist hurt and all of that, right? Your arms are tired, you're dropping stuff, the bag is ripping, right? And the whole time you're thinking like, damn, why did I do it, right? You kind of like it, but that's what you're thinking, right? That's what most people do with self improvement. They try to carry the whole life change in one trip, right? And when they drop it, they wonder what happened because, but the real consistency is usually smaller, right? It's way quieter, right? And way less impressive at first, right? It might just be 5 minutes. It might be opening the notebook. It might be putting the phone in another room. It might be taking one walk after work, right? It might be saving a little bit of money instead of trying to fix your whole life at once, right? It might be doing the thing that makes tomorrow slightly easier. Not because that one action changes everything, but because that one action teaches your brain this is what we do now. And that's what matters because your brain learns from proof. It doesn't learn from promises. You could promise yourself a new life all day, right? But your brain believes what you repeat. So instead of making huge promises, start building small proof, right? That's what changes your identity, not the speech you give yourself at midnight, right? The proof you give yourself the next day. The hardest part of consistency is usually not the whole thing. It's usually the start, right? Before you start, your brain makes everything look big, right? A workout feels like this huge mission. Work feels impossible. Cleaning feels annoying, right? Recording feels awkward. Studying feels painful, right? Even sending one message, right, can feel like a, a lot when your mind is already tired, right? But then once you actually start, it's usually not as bad as your brain made it seem, right? Like you know what I'm talking about. That's why the start matters the most. You don't need to win the whole day. You just need to win the first door, right? Because once you walk through that first door, the next step is easier. So instead of saying, like, I need to work out for an hour, just try by saying, like, I just need to put my shoes on. Instead of saying, I need to build my whole future tonight, say, I'm just going to work on my goal for 10 minutes. Instead of saying, I need to fix my life, say, I just need to do the next logical step. You know, that phrase has helped me a lot. The next logical step. Because sometimes your brain makes life too big. You start thinking about your whole future, you know, your income, your purpose, your expenses, your career, your body, your relationships, your mistakes, even your age, right? Like how much time you wasted, how far ahead other people are. And when you think about all of that at once, you freeze. Like, of course, you freeze. Anyone would, right? It's like opening 50 tabs on your computer and then wondering why it's so slow, right? Your mind is overloaded. So bring it back. What's the next logical step? Not the perfect thing, not the most impressive thing, not the thing that will make everyone clap, just the next logical step. No matter how small that step is, maybe it's getting up, maybe it's cleaning part of your space, maybe it's doing the first 5 minutes, maybe it's writing down 2 paragraphs about what you're avoiding, maybe it's going deep instead of pretending another video will fix you, right? And this is where consistency becomes real because now you're not trying to become some perfect fake person. You're just becoming someone who responds honestly, one moment at a time. And that builds trust with yourself, right? This is the part that might hit a little deeper because a lot of people don't struggle with consistency because they don't have a plan. They struggle because they don't trust themselves anymore. Because they've made the plan before. They've said this is or this time is different. They've bought the notebook. They've saved the videos. They've made the routine. They've told themselves, you know, Monday, be serious, and then they fall off again. So after a while, what happens? Even when you make a new plan, part of you doesn't believe it. You're saying, I'm going to change, but some quiet part of your mind is like, are we though? Right? And that hurts. And I'm actually curious if you're comfortable sharing it. You know, what's the thing you keep trying to stay consistent with, but for some reason you keep falling off, right? Like, is it fitness? Is it money, content, school, your job, your sleep, or just your life in general, right? Like, because I think a lot of people are dealing with the same pattern, but they think they're the only one, right? Because now every new goal comes with shame attached to it. You're not just trying to do the thing. You're trying to prove you're not lazy. You're trying to prove you're not broken. You're trying to prove you're not falling behind. You're not trying to prove you still have time, right? This is the, or I guess that is the heavy way to live. And I think a lot of people in their 20s and 30s feel this, right? Because you're not a kid anymore, right? Life feels more real now. Money feels real. Time feels real. Work feels real. Your future feels real. And when you keep starting over, it starts to feel scary because it's not just about a habit anymore. It starts becoming, am I going to waste my life? Right? And if that's where you are, I just want to say this clearly. You don't need to rebuild self trust with one giant promise. You rebuild it with small, kept promises. That's it. Small, kept promises, right? If you say you're going to walk for 5 minutes and you actually do it, that counts. If you say you're going to clean, you know, one corner of your room and you do it, that counts. If you say you're going to work on your goal for the next 10 minutes and you do that, that counts, right? Because your brain starts collecting evidence. And at first, it might not feel like much, but over time, something changes. You start seeing yourself differently. You start thinking, maybe I do follow through. Maybe I can trust myself. Maybe I'm not the person who I thought I was. That is where real consistency comes from, right? Not pressure, but proof, right? Because pressure makes you perform for a few days, but proof changes what you believe about yourself. The real trick is not to force yourself forever, right? The real trick is what? To become that person who follows through. And I know that sounds simple, but it changes everything because when you see yourself as someone who always quits, right? Every hard day becomes proof that you're still that person. But when you start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, then every small action matters, right? Because you don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep voting for the new identity. I like this idea a lot, right? Like every time you do the next logical step, that's a vote. Every time you start before you feel ready, that's a vote. Every time you keep a small promise, that's a vote. Every time you choose your future over your old pattern, that's a vote. And after enough of those votes, your brain starts to believe it, right? That's when people around you notice, right? Not because you become successful overnight, not because you suddenly turn into some perfect person, but because you stop disappearing. You stop talking about changing and you actually start changing, right? You stop restarting your life every 2 weeks. You stop needing a big emotional reset to do the basics, and slowly you become different. That's why your friends get shocked because they remember the old version of you, right? They remember the version of you who always said, I'm going to start, I'm going to do it, I'm going to change. But now they're seeing what? The version of you who actually does those things. And the crazy part is, by the time they notice, it might not even feel crazy to you anymore because to you, it became normal, right? That's the goal, not to make consistency this huge dramatic thing, but to make it normal, to make growth normal, to make following through normal, to make keeping promises to yourself normal. Because once your brain sees that as normal, you don't need to trick yourself as much anymore. You just live from that place. So if you take anything from this video, take this. You don't need to become consistent by hating the version of you that struggled. You become consistent by giving your brain a new normal, right? Small actions, small proof, small promises that you keep again and again until one day you look back and realize what you're not trying to become that person anymore. You are that person. And if this is how you've been feeling, if you feel like you keep trying to change but somehow keep ending up in the same place, you're not the only one. That's what I'm trying to build this channel for. People like us, people who know they're meant for more but need the right environment, the right tools, and the right people around them. So if this resonates with you, subscribe and stay close, because I think we're building something big here. And if you watch, this far and you're thinking, okay, this makes sense, Mayor, but why do I keep falling off even when I really want to change? Then watch this video next, because in that video, I break down why you don't actually have a consistency problem and what's really going on underneath it. And I think once you see that, this whole pattern is going to make a lot more sense. So click that video and I'll see you over there.